So picture this. You are standing in your living room, right? But the walls are, well, they're just subtly different.
Like the paint color is off or something.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
the person sitting on the couch next to you isn't the spouse you actually married. The career that's, keeping you up at night, it doesn't even exist.
Wow.
You just have this entirely different life. And in this version, you are infinitely happier. But here's the wildest part of this whole scenario. It's not a dream.
Right.
This reality is sitting physically just on the other side of a specific door.
I mean, that is basically the ultimate human fantasy, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
And it's actually the exact premise we are unpacking today in this deep dive. We're looking at this through the lens of a really unusual, a highly unusual film called Die Tür, or in English, The Door.
Yeah, and we should say right up front, we aren't just reviewing a movie here.
No, not at all. This film acts more like a psychological mirror. It takes that classic sci-fi trope of the parallel universe and just aggressively strips away all the, the flashy spectacle.
Right, there are no laser battles or whatever.
Exactly. It forces us into this profound kind of ethical study of our own desperate desire to undo our history.
Because our mission today for you, the listener, is to explore a genuinely uncomfortable question.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Do we actually want to change our past? Or do we simply have absolutely no idea how to live with it?
Right.
Because imagine a massive, life-altering mistake. We so often talk about past regrets like they are a pebble in a shoe.
Like just a sharp little pain you limp around with.
Yeah, a pain you just limp around with for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But a true catastrophic regret doesn't work like that at all.
How so?
Well, okay, let's unpack this. It's much more like a load-bearing wall in a house. When the mistake first happens, it feels like this massive, ugly wall just dropped right in the middle of your living room.
Right, totally ruining the floor plan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But over the years, you don't just stare at it, You build around it. You run your electrical wiring right through it.
You hang your family photos on it.
Yes. It literally begins to hold up the ceiling. And eventually, life revolves around that single mistake until it stops being just a memory of a bad event.
Yeah.
It becomes the foundational architecture of your identity.
And that structural shift is really the core issue here, because people rarely want to change the literal chronological past.
Really, I feel like people say they want to do that all the time.
They say they do, yeah. But what they actually want to change is the psychological relationship they have with that past.
Oh, I see.
They want the ugly wall gone so they can have, an open concept living room. And Die Tür takes this very abstract, universal desire and makes it shockingly tangible.
Because a literal door opens.
Right. A literal door opens and the possibility of going back becomes a physical reality. But the film isn't asking about the quantum mechanics of time travel.
Thank goodness, because that always gives me a headache.
Same here. The real question tearing at the protagonist, and honestly at the audience, is this. If you could walk through a door and demolish that load-bearing wall, would the house of your personality survive, or would who you are just collapse entirely?
Wow. That is heavy. But, to understand why a literal door to the past is so tempting, we first have to look at what our brains are already doing, like every single day on a random Tuesday.
Right, because we don't even need a magical door to time travel.
Nope. Our minds are constantly simulating these alternate timelines anyway.
And the cognitive mechanics of this are just fascinating because the human brain is essentially a predictive engine, right? And it thrives on possibilities rather than certainties.
Even after something is completely finalized.
Exactly. You would assume that once a major life decision is made or a consequence plays out, the brain would just close the file to save energy.
Yeah, like job's done, moving on.
But it does the exact opposite. We constantly generate and obsess over alternative scenarios.
Like, what if I took that job in Chicago? Or, what if I hadn't looked away from the road for that one single second?
Exactly. In psychological terms, the source text refers to this as counterfactual thinking.
Counterfactual thinking, okay.
Yeah, it's the mental replay of unfulfilled scenarios. And the brain does this as a survival tactic, actually.
Wait, how is torturing myself over a mistake a survival tactic?
Because by simulating what could have happened, it attempts to update its predictive models to keep you safer in the future.
Oh, wow. Okay, that makes sense.
But the text brings up a concept about this that completely flips how we understand regret. It points out that the thought, if I had acted differently that day, doesn't actually belong to the past at all. It belongs entirely to the present.
Okay, wait. I'm stuck on that.
What part?
The idea that this belongs entirely to the present. Because, If I am consumed by regret over some huge argument I had 10 years ago,
Right.
my brain is clearly living in a decade-old memory, right? How is that a present tense construction?
Well, because memory is not a video recording that you just pull out of a filing cabinet.
Right.
Memory is a very active reconstruction process. So when you think about that argument from 10 years ago, you are rebuilding the event using your present-day neurology.
Oh, I see.
It's heavily colored by your current emotional state, your current anxieties, and, all the knowledge you've acquired since then.
So the regret feels historical, but the simulation, the actual what if, is being manufactured by who you are today.
Exactly. To serve a psychological need you have right now.
Wow, that completely changes the texture of regret. The alternative scenario is basically a phantom we create just to cope with the present moment.
Yes. And this counterfactual thinking, it has a profound dual nature.
What do you mean?
Well, it can be incredibly adaptive and healing. Running through alternative scenarios helps us map out our current values, It helps us understand what we actually want out of life.
It's like a learning mechanism.
Precisely. But the trap is severe. Every alternative, perfected scenario we dream up can reinforce this lingering, paralyzing feeling that our current life is somehow incomplete.
Yeah. There's a specific word highlighted in our source material that captures that exact paralysis.
Oh, the Turkish word?
Yes, the text points to the word keşke, which translates roughly to if only.
If only. Wow.
Such a tiny word. But it carries the crushing weight of unlived possibilities. But I kind of want to push back on the premise that this is purely a trap.
Okay, go for it.
Because when I imagine an alternative life where I made different choices, sometimes it actually makes my current problems feel a little less suffocating. Like it feels like freedom to know things could have been different. Isn't having options a good thing?
Well, the illusion of freedom is exactly what makes the trap so dangerous.
Oh.
The text explains that imagining an alternative life makes our current reality feel not mandatory.
Not mandatory.
Right. And that seems deeply liberating at first glance because it feeds our ultimate human comfort, the belief that our choices are reversible and our suffering is accidental.
Which is what we all want to believe.
Of course. But Die Tür weaponizes this desire for a second chance. The film takes this purely mental process of counterfactual thinking and locks it into a physical space. The door is the material equivalent of the mind's alternative narrative.
So if this door makes those mental what-ifs completely, literally real, what happens when you step through?
That's the terrifying part.
Right, because what are we actually destroying when we alter a past event? Looking at it through the lens of that load-bearing wall we talked about earlier, it's not just a surgical removal of a bad day.
No, it is far more destructive than that. The psychological tension in the film isn't really about the events themselves.
That's not.
No, the tension revolves around the meaning attached to those events. We are fundamentally meaning-making machines.
Yeah, we have to make sense of things.
Exactly. A moment from the past doesn't stay frozen. We drag it forward with us, and we reinterpret it constantly over the years.
Okay, so how does that reinterpretation actually work in practice? Like, when a horrific mistake happens, how do we turn an event into a meaning?
It happens through a psychological process called assimilation.
Assimilation.
Yeah. When a severe loss or a senseless mistake occurs, the human mind physically cannot tolerate the cognitive dissonance of chaos.
It's too terrifying to believe that terrible things just happen for no reason at all.
Exactly. So the brain deploys a defense mechanism. We force a narrative structure over the tragedy. We assimilate the loss into our worldview.
Okay, I follow.
Over time, the loss ceases to be merely a gap in our lives. It solidifies into a critical reference point.
So it teaches us empathy for others who suffer, maybe?
Yes, or it teaches us caution. It builds our resilience.
So what does this all mean? Wanting to change the past isn't just about altering a timeline so you can be happier.
No, not at all.
It means eradicating the entire narrative structure your brain built to survive the event in the first place.
Yeah.
You are literally wiping out the architecture of your own personality.
Which brings us directly to the central paradox of the text.
Okay, lay it on me.
If a mistake experienced in the past is eliminated, do the lessons taught by that mistake also disappear?
Oh, man. And the film doesn't give us a comforting answer there, does it?
No, it really doesn't.
It forces this brutal realization. Like, even though some of our experiences are agonizing, they might be absolutely indispensable to the formation of ourself.
Right.
To erase the worst day of your life is to annihilate the strength, the empathy, and the depth of the person you became because of it.
You pull down the wall and the roof caves in?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the commitment to that heavy psychological weight is what elevates this film above its genre. I mean, it completely breaks the rules of standard science fiction.
It really does. It keeps the entire focus on the burden of identity.
Because normally, a parallel universe story gets instantly bogged down in the quantum mechanics.
Oh, totally.
You get the branching timelines, the grandfather paradoxes, the endless rules about not interacting with your past self.
The alternate reality is basically treated as a playground of scientific discovery for the audience.
Right. But Die Tür aggressively ignores the physics.
Yeah, it doesn't waste a single frame explaining how a parallel universe operates. It just doesn't care.
It only investigates what the existence of such a possibility creates in the human mind. The tension arises entirely from internal thought, not external action.
And because of that, having an alternative life available doesn't become an escape hatch for the protagonist.
No, it becomes an arena of psychological confrontation.
And what's fascinating here is that the confrontation is terrifying, because the reminder that one's current life is not strictly necessary is just as destabilizing as it is liberating.
Wow. Yeah.
It forces a horrific question onto the protagonist. Is the weight of a life made up of what is actually lived? Or is the true weight of our existence made up of our unlived possibilities?
I mean, if you know there is a pristine, unlived possibility sitting right on the other side of a doorway, your current, flawed life becomes unbearable.
Because the imperfection of reality just cannot compete with the perfection of a fantasy.
It's impossible. So if facing this door is so utterly destructive to a person's current identity, how does the character even arrive at the threshold?
That's a great question.
Do we actively seek out our own life-altering moments, or do we just, stumble into them?
Well, the text highlights a crucial, almost poetic detail here. The character does not consciously search for this door.
He doesn't formulate a rational plan to locate a gateway to his past.
No, not at all. He follows a butterfly.
The butterfly motif is fascinating because it completely subverts our expectations.
How so?
When we hear butterfly in a time travel context, we immediately think of the butterfly effect from chaos theory, right?
Oh, right. Like a tiny action causing a massive, unpredictable hurricane.
Exactly. A scientific metaphor for cause and effect. But the text argues the film is doing something entirely different. It's not about a chain of physical causality. It's about how meaning is established backwards.
Yes. Retrospective significance is a major theme in this analysis. When the character is following the butterfly and finally reaches the door, he doesn't understand what he is looking at.
He doesn't know it's a turning point.
No, he has no idea in the present moment that he has stumbled onto the grand turning point of his existence. The meaning of that arrival only appears much later, when he looks back.
You know, it reminds me of driving a route you take every single day, like your commute home from work.
Yeah.
You pull into your driveway, you put the car in park, and suddenly you realize you were completely on autopilot for the last 20 miles.
Right. You don't even remember the drive.
Your instincts, your muscle memory, and your subconscious just guided you through traffic, around turns, and to your destination without a single conscious thought.
That's so true.
And we navigate massive life transitions the same exact way. We rarely recognize life's breaking points when we are actually standing in them. They only look like turning points in the rearview mirror.
That autopilot analogy is perfect for understanding the film's climax, actually, because we have to look at what is actively steering that autopilot.
Right, what's driving the car?
Exactly. At the very beginning of the film, we are shown that a little girl has an intense interest in butterflies.
Okay.
This detail is vital. It moves the butterfly out of the realm of just being an element of nature and puts it into a deeply personal realm of meaning. It becomes a carrier of memory.
So it anchors the insect to his emotional core.
Yes. So later, when the character encounters a freezing butterfly, saving it isn't some calculated decision.
It's a reflex.
It is an automatic reflex driven by an unresolved emotional bond. That one small, unconscious movement makes the entire rest of the film possible. He follows the butterfly without predicting where it will lead.
But wait, so is he actually making a choice to alter his destiny? Or is he just simply a passenger being directed by his own unresolved trauma?
This raises an important question, right? It complicates the entire concept of free will, which the text grapples with directly.
It really blurs the line.
It absolutely blurs how conscious his choices really are. His arrival at the door is not the result of planned will. It's just the result of following an impression.
So do we really make bold, rational choices to change our lives?
Or do we simply experience movements that we assign grand meaning to after the fact? The butterfly is a visual manifestation of his emotional bond with the past. It's pulling him forward by this invisible string.
It creates this haunting impression that he didn't look for the door at all. The door found him.
Exactly. The physical gateway is merely the visible manifestation of his unconscious desires and his heavily suppressed possibilities.
Wow. This entire exploration really dramatically shifts how we view the trajectory of our own lives.
It certainly does.
We started by looking at the daily, mundane mental habit of whispering, "what if?" and generating those alternate realities.
Right, the counterfactual thinking.
Then we unpacked how the human brain builds a narrative architecture over our most painful mistakes, turning regrets into the very foundation of our identities.
The load-bearing walls.
Exactly. And finally, we arrive at this chilling idea that our biggest, most dramatic life changes might not come from conscious, rational decisions at all. They come from intuitive, almost automatic pulls toward our unhealed wounds.
And the ultimate takeaway from Die Tür is that the door is not just a transition point in space and time.
What is it then?
It is what happens when the alternative narrative our mind constantly builds suddenly becomes materially real. The tragedy of the film is that the character doesn't boldly decide to conquer time and pass through the door. He merely walks up to it on autopilot. And honestly, sometimes that is exactly how our lives change.
Not with a grand declaration of intent.
Nope. Just by unconsciously following an instinct until we are standing at the threshold of something we can't undo.
We have journeyed through the psychological mechanics of regret today and the terrifying weight of our own potential. But to bring this all the way home, consider a philosophical thread we haven't even touched yet.
Okay, what's that?
Imagine a near future where memory editing technology actually exists.
Oh, wow. Like
Yeah.
in sci-fi, but real.
Yeah. If we develop the scientific ability to surgically remove the emotional weight of our past mistakes without needing a magical door, if we can literally erase the load-bearing walls of our regrets, will the next generation be infinitely happier, or will they just be completely empty?
That's a profound question.
Think about a massive turning point in your own life. At the exact moment it was happening, were you consciously deciding to change your destiny, or were you just blindly following a butterfly, an instinct you only made sense of years later? Next time you find yourself whispering, "what if?" about your own past, ask yourself if you're ready to lose the person that mistake turned you into.